Hey you guys, and welcome back to my channel. In today's video, we are going to be baking some bread together. If you are new here, my name is Marissa. I am a pharmacist and health coach, and I make lots of videos here on YouTube every week all about healthy eating, lots of recipes, meal ideas, and different ways and tips for you to improve your health. So today we are going to be making some sourdough sandwich bread, and I have made this 2 times before, so today is my 3rd time. I'm pretty new to sourdough, so I am by no means an expert, but I feel like I'm doing pretty good and the end result always tastes delicious. And I am excited to share with you guys basically the step-by-step process as to how I prepare this. Again, I am no expert, so if you're looking for expert tips, I'm probably not your girl, but I wanted to show you guys step-by-step how you can do this in your kitchen to make it for yourself, for your family, and make it not so overwhelming. When I first got started with sourdough, and even before I did, and a big reason why I waited so long to get into sourdough and bread baking is just because I was so overwhelmed. I was confused. I was like, this is just a lot for me. And I cook all the time. I cook the majority of my meals at home, and I was totally intimidated by bread, by sourdough, and I basically just kept pushing it off, even though it was definitely something that I have wanted to get into for a long time. So I wanted to bring you guys along with me. We're gonna go through the process together. And again, I probably am not doing everything 100% correctly, or who knows, but I just wanna show you guys the process, make it not so overwhelming, make it more attainable and doable, and hopefully inspire you to get into your kitchen and bake some bread for yourself and for your family. Okay, so first thing with sourdough is that you need to be kind of intentional with it. You have to know like when you want to do it, and like look at your schedule and see like when you're gonna have time to do this. Sourdough is not like a spontaneity kind of thing. You have to be like intentional, and you have to know like that you want to make it, because you have to do a little bit of prep work, and that prep work is feeding your starter and preparing the dough and letting it ferment for several hours, and then you can go ahead and bake it off. This was a little hard for me in the beginning because I love creativity. I love to do kind of more spontaneous cooking. I love to go into my refrigerator at the end of the day. I have no idea what I'm gonna make for dinner, but I just look and see like what I have, and I can just, you know, basically put together a dinner with whatever I got. And it's kind of fun for me. It's a really great form of like creativity and expression of creativity for me. But with sourdough, I can't really do that. So that was an adjustment for me that I had to make for this. And I found that utilizing my weekends has been really helpful to make my sourdough bread. I have more time, I have more flexibility in my schedule, and it's just really fun, and it's like a nice project that I can work on over the weekend. So today I am using a recipe that comes from the Farmhouse on Boone. I'm gonna link her recipe down below. It's from her blog, and it's really good. I've made this 2 times before. Today's my 3rd time. I'm going to make a little adjustment to it, and you guys will see what that is a little later on in the video. But it's gonna be fun, and this is a very simple recipe, and I find that her recipes are really easy to follow, so you can go ahead and check her out. She's got a lot of great sourdough recipes, and I kind of feel like I wanna like cook my way through like all of them. So the first thing that we need to do is prepare our starter. So here is my starter. I just took it out of the refrigerator, and now we are going to go ahead and feed it. I usually keep this in my refrigerator until I'm ready to use it, just because I don't use it every single day, and putting it in the refrigerator puts it on pause. So as you can see right now, this is what my starter looks like. It almost has like a little black liquid on top. This is fine, don't freak out. It just means that this thing needs to be fed. So I'm going to need a 1/2 cup of starter in order to make this loaf of bread. So we're going to feed it using some all-purpose flour. This is unbleached, which is very important. The bleached flour can kill like your starter, and it just does not make it happy, and that's not what we want. And then I'm going to be also using some purified drinking water. This is important because you want to make sure that there's no chlorine in the water, because that can also negatively affect your starter as well. So as you guys could see, I didn't really measure it like by weighing it with grams and scales and everything. You totally could, but I kind of like doing it this way. It's a little bit more intuitive, and it's just easier for my brain to handle. So typically what I do is I just go for like an overly thick pancake batter consistency. I add in as much flour, that's my kitty cat. I add in as much flour as the recipe calls for the starter that's needed in the recipe. So for this recipe, we need a 1/2 cup of starter. So I'm gonna add in a 1/2 cup of flour. And then I'm also gonna add in enough water to get it to like an overly thick pancake batter consistency. And this way works for me. If this totally stresses you out, then you could totally get a scale and like measure everything. I actually did buy one, but I just prefer this method. So now I'm just going to leave this on my counter at room temperature, away from direct sunlight, and I'm just going to allow it a couple of hours to rise, do its thing, and then you will see it'll be beautifully bubbly later on. It's probably gonna take like 4-ish hours. It's about 4 o'clock right now. It just turned 4. So we'll probably check it back around like 8 p.m. and then we'll prepare our dough, and then it'll ferment overnight, and in the morning, I like to get up early in the morning, we're gonna go ahead and shape it and then let it do a second rise, and then we're going to go ahead and bake it, and then boom, this thing is all done. So there we go, that's our starter, and I will see you guys in a few hours. It is now 8 o'clock, and this is the starter. So the temperature gauge here has like, it's between like 78 and 80, and that's because my house is actually kind of warm right now. And the starter was down here and now it's up here. So it has definitely doubled in size, and this is what it looks like. It is nice and bubbly in there. So now we are going to prepare our dough. Also, just want to say, I'm really sorry if you hear some fans going on. Sort of lost my AC in the last week, so I have a bunch of fans running right now because it is quite hot here. So you could 100% use a stand mixer, and a lot of people that you may see online show you them doing this in a stand mixer, and I actually broke down and bought one myself because it's just, it is a really good like time, energy saver when you're doing this process. But up until this point, I have been preparing my dough using a food processor with a dough hook, and so I'm going to show you that today, just in case you do not have a, you know, stand mixer, KitchenAid mixer, whatever, and because they are an investment, but I think that they are worth it. But anyway, so I haven't had one up until this point in my life, and I actually got this originally to help me, and I love it, but I think moving forward I'm going to use that. But I do want to show you this just in case this is something that's more realistic for you. This is like a Ninja like base. It has like a blender, a food processor, and like a individual smoothie thing it came with. It was like a combo pack. I'll leave it linked down below, and I'll leave the other mixer below as well, so you can kind of take your pick. But this is what I do, and it just kind of like saves me a little step. I'm sure you could do this part by hand. I know our ancestors did, but it's just like a little time saver. So what we're gonna do is put all of the ingredients in here. We're gonna mix it. This thing actually has like a dough mix setting. It goes for 30 seconds just to mix the dough, and then we're gonna knead it by hand on the countertop, the cutting board. We're gonna, you know, use a bunch of flour, get that done, and we're gonna knead it for 10 minutes. Which, if you have a stand mixer, you could just like let this thing run for 10 minutes and it like saves you all that energy and time. But again, just in case you don't have it, and I did not have it up until this point, and I haven't even used it yet for sourdough bread. So that could be another video. But again, up until this point, I had just had this. So I want to show you this just in case this is where you're at, okay? I got my recipe, and we're gonna start by adding in some butter. So I've got 2 tablespoons about of some grass-fed butter. Next, we are going to use 1 tablespoon of honey. Oops. Next, I'm gonna add in 1.5 teaspoons of salt. And just so you know, when you're looking at this recipe on her blog, I'm cutting it in half because I'm only making 1 loaf of bread. All right. Next is a 1/2 cup of our starter. Oh, and it's so pretty. I wonder if I can give you like a close-up of it, but it's so pretty. Ooh. Okay, always, always, always make sure that you leave some starter back in here. If you use it all up, then you have to go through the entire 5 to 7 day process of making it again. So always leave a little left in there so that you have something to work with on the next go around. I love this little handy tool here. It just helps facilitate the process. Also, I've noticed with starter, make sure that you are soaking it right away because the stuff kind of can stick and then it makes it harder to wash. So go ahead and let it soak in the sink right away. Next, I'm going to use 1 1/4 cups of water. That is 1 cup and 1/4 cup. And now we're gonna add in 4 cups of our all-purpose unbleached flour. Funny story, the first time I made this, I think that my water to flour ratio was just a little bit off because the dough felt like a sloppy mess, and I have a funny short of me, trying to get it into the loaf pan, and it just wasn't working out very well. And somebody nicely commented that I might need to add more flour because it was just like the hydration level was kind of off. And I'm still learning what all these terms mean and everything, but after experiencing that, I think I understand what he was talking about. So that was a very helpful tip. All right, I think this is 3. And 1 more. And now you can see why I am only making 1 loaf of bread. There is absolutely no way I could fit 8 cups of flour in here. Like, no, maybe in the stand mixer. And then that would be nice because then I can meal prep it and then I don't have to do this as often. But again, this is what we got. And here we go. So now we're gonna put the top on and lock it. And I'm going to hit the dough mix setting, and you'll see that it runs for 30 seconds and then it's gonna look all combined, but it's gonna be very sticky. And before I go ahead and put this on my cutting board and start kneading it, I am going to go ahead and get my starter back in my refrigerator. So I'm gonna go ahead and put the little cap back on again. And I'm gonna put it back in the fridge because I am not going to be using it in the near future. If I wanted to make something else right away with sourdough, I could go ahead and just feed this thing again and then let it take 3 or 4 hours to double in size, get active and bubbly and all of that, and then I could go ahead and use it for another recipe. But I am not going to do that right now, so I'm gonna go ahead and put this back in the refrigerator, and this is gonna put this entire thing on pause. Okay, so you're going to see that this is very sticky, and I am pretty sure that that's because the gluten is not really developed yet, and so when we knead it, it's gonna help develop the gluten. And gluten is really important for the structure of bread. That's why you'll see in a lot of gluten-free breads that you'll see a lot of other additive ingredients in there to help mimic what gluten naturally does. So we're gonna flour the cutting board really well because this dough is very sticky. I'm gonna use this tool to help me get it out of here. I'm going to flour my hands right on top of the dough. We just got to get the dough hook out of it. So this is the dough. It's very soft. So now we're going to knead it. So as far as I know, we just fold it and then press together, twist it, and then pull it to you again. Press down, spin, pull towards you, push down, and spin. And then we're gonna repeat this process for 10 minutes. And there was one time where I tried to do 5 and it did not go very well. Again, the dough was a very sloppy mess and it was just hard to, it didn't have like enough development of the gluten to like really hold its structure and shape. So that was something that I learned the hard way on. So we're gonna set a timer and I'm gonna do this for 10 minutes and I will see you once I'm done. Okay, hold up, I forgot something. We are going to add in some rosemary into our dough, and it's going to be a rosemary sourdough bread. I did this the last time and it was so good, and I have an overflow of rosemary in my garden. This is all of my rosemary. I've had this rosemary plant for a year here, never took it down, and it survived the winter. Okay, so I got my rosemary. I knew I was gonna forget something. And it just takes an extra second, but I just like to make sure that there's no weird looking like stems in there, because I'm not gonna chop the rosemary, we're just gonna leave it like whole. So we got the rosemary all scattered there, and I'm just gonna keep kneading the dough and it'll work it in. And trust me, adding the rosemary gives it the absolute best flavor. And just envision yourself dipping this thing in some olive oil. Okay, so here's the dough. It's ready to go. So we're going to put it in a glass mixing bowl. And I oiled it so that it's easy for us to get this dough out tomorrow. Probably put in a little too much oil, but that's okay. All right, and then we'll go ahead and just place that in here. And now you can either cover it with some plastic wrap or a damp towel. If you're gonna use a towel, it has to be damp. I tried once with a towel that wasn't damp and the entirety of the dough that you could see was completely dried out. So you wanna make sure that it's a very damp towel, or just use cling wrap or plastic wrap. So here's the dough. I'm going to leave it out on my countertop overnight, and I will see you guys in the morning. Good morning, you guys. So it is 6:30, and I meant to get up at 6, but it's 6:30. And this is our dough. Look at that. Isn't that beautiful? Look at how much it rose overnight. And you can see all the bubbles in there. Okay, so this morning we are going to shape the dough until it looks like a rectangle. So I am just flouring my cutting board here so that we can put the dough on it. And if you decided to use cling wrap, go ahead and take this off, but don't throw it away because we're going to use it again in just a moment. I'm going to put the dough right on the cutting board. If it sticks or whatnot, you can just use the little scraper here to help you maneuver the dough. And I'm sure you could do this with a rolling pin, but I just like to use my hands. I think it's simpler. So I'm just kind of forming a little rectangle here. So now what we're gonna do is we're gonna fold this up. So it doesn't really matter what side you start with, so I'll just start here. So I just kind of do a little fold, and then I take the palm of my hand and I just press this in so that it kind of seams. And then we're going to tuck these sides in and then roll it again. And I'm just going to repeat this process until we have got it into a log shape. So tuck and roll. If it sticks to the cutting board, just go ahead and grab this scraper here to kind of help you facilitate this process. But mine seems to be doing pretty good today. So tuck and roll again, press down. Now at this point, we can go ahead and put the dough into our proofing basket and allow it to rise for about 2 hours or until it's doubled in size. Just really depends on the temperature that's within your house. If it's warmer, it's gonna rise quicker than if it's colder. So if you were to do this, you can just go ahead and put this in seam side up, which is where I made my mistake last time. I went seam side down, and then when it went time to put it in the loaf pan, it was seam side up, so it wasn't right. But if you wanted to do that, put it seam side up so that when you go ahead and put it into the loaf pan, it'll be good. Today, I think I'm just gonna go ahead and proof it in here, just because it saves me a little bit of a step. So I'm gonna go ahead and just spray this with this avocado spray, just to make sure nothing sticks. After all this work, you do not want your bread to stick to the loaf pan. So I'm gonna use my scraper here to help me get this thing into my loaf pan. Okay. All right. And then I like to just see if I can tuck the edges in just a little bit, but it's not perfect, and perfect is not what I'm going for. I'm just going for some yummy tasting bread. Okay, so now we're gonna go ahead and put the plastic wrap back on this so that the dough does not dry out. And then we are going to let this sit, let it double in size and rise. The recipe calls for like 2 to 4 hours. I've got like 2. So we'll see. And then I gotta bake this thing off because then I got other stuff to do today. So, but I'll keep an eye on it, see when it's doubled. And once it has doubled, then we can go ahead and bake it. It has been 2 hours and this has pretty much doubled in size. I don't really have too much longer to wait, so we're gonna go with it. So now the last thing that we're gonna do before this thing goes in the oven is we're gonna put on some egg, and we're gonna do like an egg wash, and this is gonna help the top get nice and golden brown. I have my little silicone brush here, and we're just going to spread this all over the top. So now I'm going to bake this at 375 for 45 minutes. And then whatever is remaining in here, I'm just going to fry it up and have it with my breakfast. So it looks like my seam is not 100% on the bottom because it is looking like that right there, but I think it looks really beautiful. It is now about 1:30 and I have let this cool completely, and now we are going to slice it. Oh, it smells so good. Oh, that looks good. Now for the official taste test. Oh, that's so good. And for storage, what I'm gonna do is just go ahead and put this in a Ziploc bag, and then I'm gonna put it in the freezer, and then I can pull out a slice at a time whenever I want to eat it, and it's going to stay fresh all throughout the week. I hope that you guys enjoyed this video and coming into my kitchen and baking some sourdough bread with me. If you are interested in getting into sourdough and want to create a starter for yourself, I have a whole little video series on YouTube Shorts where I showed you day by day how to make the starter. I'm gonna link that all down below for you guys in the description box, and I walk you through it each step or each day at a time, and this way it's not so overwhelming and you can really easily follow along. And also, if you are pretty much brand new to sourdough and you kind of need some help getting some supplies and getting started with it, I highly recommend the sourdough starter kit that I was using in today's video. It comes with the glass jar, it has this little temperature gauge, it has the band so you can track when your starter has doubled in size, it has this little cap here, and then it also comes with the spatula, the silicone, I just got myself wet in the face there, I totally just lost my train of thought, the silicone brush, we're gonna keep going, and also the scraper, and then it has this one which is good for a sandwich loaf bread, and then it also has a circular one if you want to do a round loaf or a round bread loaf. Yeah, there you go. And these are really cool because they're silicone and they fold up or they fold in, which is really cool, which is nice for storage. And what I like about the silicone here is that the dough doesn't really stick to it at all, so you don't really have to grease it or anything, and it just makes it really convenient for it. So once you collapse it, it's just really easy for storage. And the company who makes this is called TeeMars, and they were generous to let me have a discount code for you guys. So if you wanted to, you can go ahead and get 10% off your purchase using my code that's on the screen right now when you purchase your sourdough starter kit. But otherwise, thank you guys so much for watching today's video. I hope that you enjoyed it, got some baking inspiration. Maybe you are even inspired to now go ahead and make a sourdough starter and bake some bread. If you haven't subscribed to my channel yet, then I would absolutely love for you to do so, and you can join me and my Wellness Warrior community here on my channel. You can also follow me on Instagram. It's at Simply Health with Marissa, and I'm always sharing little behind the scenes over on there, and I have a whole sourdough highlight where I show lots of different sourdough videos and just behind the scene clips over on there as well. And if you could, please give this video a big thumbs up. It really helps me out, and I will see you guys in my next video. Stay well, my friends. Bye.